This service is the F2 service to Taronga Zoo, and this is quite a quick trip. It's only 10 minutes long, so you are viewing this in my real time of how I filmed the entire journey. So the only wait is really basically at Taronga Zoo while you wait for zoogoers and passengers to come on board. But this is a very quick trip. So if you want an easy, quick trip around the harbour, I think this is probably one of the better ferry services that you should probably take. Anyway, we're just departing Circular Quay now, and you can see those apartments at East Circular Quay, which was a controversial build because it did block the views of the botanical gardens from Circular Quay. So we're now just turning around at the quay. So you've got the views of the bridge and the house together. And for some reason, I decided to focus on the overseas passenger terminal. But look, it does come alive, this part of the quay, Western Circular Quay now, during Vivid, just because it's so bright and beautifully done. So this is what it looks like on an ordinary day without a cruise ship on board. So for most first-time visitors to Sydney, Taronga Zoo is pretty much a must because it's a beautiful journey to get there, if you take the ferry, of course. And for those who have not seen Aussie wildlife up close, they do have the range of animals, although they've now moved into conservation, obviously. I remember the last zoo I attend, the zoo attendance, they talked about the plastic pollution killing the planet. So by 2050, we've got some really stark figures, if not earlier. So we're just passing the rocks now. Taronga Zoo was established in 1916. So it's a zoological park. They used to, if you have a look at some of the old photos, they used to have elephant rides and all that just to attract the punters in those days. So it's over 100 years old. Taronga is a Camaragal word deriving from shoulder. So I don't know where the shoulder comes from, whether it's the shoulder of where it's situated. So I'm just panning and focusing there on the people who are taking the bridge climb on the bridge. They do breathalyze you first before you climb up. And if it's a windy day, then you'd better not look down. But you are harnessed and you are tied to the rail. So I don't think there's been an incident there where somebody tried to throw themselves over the bridge, but hopefully not. Anyway, so those are just random thoughts that came to my mind. There's Kirribilli there now, St. Aloysius College there with the white cross you see on their facade. So I've talked about Kirribilli in my F9 ferry service. So these are just the Kirribilli apartments looking southwards. And a variety of different architectural styles. Some Art Deco, some have been modernized. And Kirribilli is a small village. That used to be a ferry wharf there. And I don't know if they'll reopen that again. I hope they would. I hope they will eventually. Just because there's so many tributaries here in Sydney that it does make sense to take the ferry as an alternative to the car. Just passing Admiralty House, and my apologies for the error I made in the F9. Yarralumla is the seat of the Governor General in Canberra. The Lodge is the seat in Canberra or the residence in Canberra for the Prime Minister, not Yarralumla. So there's some flags flying there. I focused on one. I'm not sure if that's the standard of the GG, the Governor General, that he is in residence. And there is quickly Kirribilli House, the Prime Minister's residence. So this is a very quick journey across the harbour to the zoo. So you can see how quick it is. If you drive or bus, they will, depending on the conditions of Military Road, give yourself 30 minutes to an hour to get to the zoo. although they have a nice car park, and the videos from Vivid Sydney in 2023 should show you some of the things, or how the zoo is laid out. So just passing now the lower North Shore, headed towards the zoo, which is located in Athol Bay. And I believe we're just passing Cremorne Point. There's in the distance you could see the pool there. They do have a tidal pool there. And we are so lucky when people were more community or social minded there, that we had these tidal pools for people's pleasure, really. So just the houses are situated there, and I think we're now just passing Cremorne Point Wharf. So the pool that I alluded to, it was the McCallum Pool. So people do tend to swim there. So yeah, it's nice to swim on the harbour. So that's an alternative. And Cremorne Point Wharf seems to have lost its roof. So I'm not sure if it's a recent phenomena, but when I did another ferry service tour, yeah, the roof has gone missing. So I hope the roof gets replaced. So we're just rounding the corner now around Cremorne Point. And there is Robertson's Point Lighthouse. And you can actually climb down the steps there, but there is a gate preventing you from entering the lighthouse itself. So I've seen people do that. The bay behind the lighthouse is called Mossman Bay, and there is a ferry service there. It's all very genteel. So it is secluded. It is relatively quiet. So hopefully I can turn on the sound for some of the ferry services where the wind doesn't really have an impact. So Mossman Bay there, and as you can see, the yachts are parked there, and you can see a Sydney ferry service on one of the wharves there at Mossman Bay, making its journey back, I suspect, back to the quay. So as we move along east, we are passing Little Sirius Cove. You could barely make the beach there, the Sirius Cove beach. A lot of artists painted that, and obviously there's a lot of artists that painted and depicted Sydney and its beaches and its cove 100 years ago, especially some of the Impressionists. But now we round the corner to Athel's Bay, and that is Whiting Beach. Oh, there's somebody there, I think. Yeah. So these are very secluded beaches, and because the only way really to get there is through a long walk, or if you kayak, or if you have a boat, beaches in Sydney and Australia are free. So unlike places elsewhere, they are publicly accessible. There's no such thing really as a private beach, though some people try to, or some resorts try to make them private, but no, the beaches in Sydney are free. So we are now just pulling up to Taronga Zoo Wharf, and it is, as you see, a very short journey. it's such a difference from leaving the busyness of Circular Quay and then arriving to this bushland haven. So those are the steps that can lead you to shore. But there's Taronga Zoo Wharf.